Hi, welcome back. It's Darius again. You notice I'm still wearing the same outfit. I decided, what the heck, I'll just go ahead and record the second portion here now. I'm already in a groove here, so the rest will probably be a different night. But here's part two, author reading by Darius Pilgrim of The Smiling Ones on Space Station Mir. Again, if you like, enjoy this, give me a like, subscribe. That would be wonderful. If not, that's cool too. I'm just going to read this story now. Chapter 3. I read those words and immediately felt ill. I made it to the lavatory just in time to vomit a thin gruel of cigarette butt-flavored coffee into the sink. After washing my sick out of the basin and splashing my face with cold water, I looked into the mirror. My face was pale and haggard. Large bags had formed under my bloodshot eyes. It was the face of a man who had been working for over 24 hours straight. I remember having the surreal moment lost in my reflection, a vague presentiment that things were about to get much worse and much stranger. If I had known just how horrifying the next 60 hours would be, would have gladly accepted termination and incarceration. It would have been worth it not to know of the things that I know. I left the bathroom and made my way to my station. Through the glass window on the opposite side of the room, I could see a small group of directors arguing in Koptev's office. An uneasy quiet had settled over the mission control room, punctuated by mouse clicks and the clacking of keyboards. Each operator I passed avoided eye contact, either completely focused on the task they had been assigned or doing an excellent job staring at the screen and faking it. Gossip and idle talk are strongly discouraged by the Russian space station. Russian Space Agency. Apologies. When I arrived back at my terminal, I looked over to see Yakovlev hugging his elbows to his chest and staring vacantly into space. His chair had been pushed back from the desk, and he reclined, stretching away from the radio transmitter, resting there as if it were a snake coiled to strike. What did I miss? I asked, snapping him from his daydream. He looked over at me with cloudy eyes. No more Morse code so far, but Ledovsky has been pleading for rescue nonstop. It's really starting to get to me. I told him that we were currently discussing the best ways to get him off Mir, and then I had to mute him. There's something seriously off about that guy. Yeah, no kidding, I said. The door to Koptev's office was closed, but the argument inside had grown heated, and I could just make out a few words, all of them harsh. Through the glass, I could see Markov gesturing angrily and occasionally pounding on the desk in front of him. Koptev sat calmly at his desk, hands clasped in front of him. Is that what you think they're arguing about in there? I asked. How to get Ledovsky back to Earth? From what I can gather, that is precisely what Assistant Director Ivanov wants. I heard him yelling something about Ledovsky being a national treasure and a hero to the Soviet Union. He thinks immediate rescue is the only option and that we can figure out the who, the what, and why later once Ledovsky is safely back on the ground. I rolled my eyes, though I honestly hadn't expected any other reaction from the assistant director. Ivanov had been a cosmonaut himself in the 80s, had even resided on Mir for a few months. He was a fiery and passionate man with very traditional values, the type to yearn in secret for return to the greatness of the USSR. Now, close to retirement, he had been passed over for the job of director in favor of the younger and more level-headed Koptev, a slight Ivanov bitterly resented and was unlikely to forgive. He must have seen this as both an opportunity to upstage Koptev and a possible propaganda victory. In Ivanov's mind, rescuing Ledovsky would open a door to the mysteries of the universe, and Russia would be the first to step through, a vanguard marching valiantly into the unknown to claim its treasures. I take it Markov has other ideas, I asked. The head of tracking communications was standing in the office now, screaming and pointing at Ivanov, shaking with fury. Yakovlev nodded. Quite an understatement. I never thought of Markov as a superstitious man, but he seems to think there's something sinister and possibly supernatural going on there. He's asked Koptev to cut off all communication with Mir and proceed with deorbiting as planned. He wants to let the station burn with Ledovsky still on it and cover this up like nothing happened? I asked. Yakovlev gave a solemn nod. And what about Koptev? Where does he stand? You and I both know that the director is a cautious man. I think he's weighing his options and will try to gather more information before deciding. There's so much about this that we cannot understand and cannot be rationally explained. But if I had to wager a guess, I'd say Koptev believes Ledovsky has gone completely mad. Sure, that doesn't explain who he really is, though, or how he got aboard. Our conversation was interrupted by Koptev poking his head out of his office. He spoke loudly so the entire room could hear. I want all personnel except the communications department to put a hold on their current task. Spend the next half hour researching the phrase, the smiling ones. Scour government records, historical archives, the internet, and anywhere else you can think of. We're looking for any reference to that phrase. He turned his head to address the group, and though his eyes were clear and steady, I could sense fear bubbling somewhere below the surface, hidden behind the years of military training. Communications, I want your full attention focused on restoring our visual link to the space station. I want to see what's going on up there, and I will expect reports in 30 minutes. He shut the door and the arguing inside resumed. Yakovlev and I made eye contact for a fleeting moment, and then turned to our terminals and got to work. Half hour later, we were once again gathered in a semicircle with Koptev, Markov, and Ivanov standing in the middle beneath the central screen. Each department reported their findings, but all were variations on the same theme. There were no substantial mentions of the smiling ones to be found. Even in the top-secret classified documents searched extensively by veteran intelligence agents, nothing could be found. No one had ever heard of or knew anything about any smiling ones. Koptev, clearly frustrated, turned to the communications department, and it fell to me to act as spokesperson. I stood up from my desk and faced the director. I could feel the eyes of every person in the room crawling over me, and my left leg shook involuntarily and continuously. Sir, I have some good news as well as some strange news. The good news is that we have fully restored the visual link to Space Station Mir, and all cameras are now active. A subdued cheer went up in the room. I waited for it to recede and then leaned over and pressed a button on my terminal. The main display at the front of the room changed into a black screen separated by crisscross gray lines, each labeled with a different location on the space station, and each completely dark. The strange news is that every camera on Mir seems to be blocked or covered by something. My guess would be black electrical tape. Koptev and Markov exchanged a look while Ivanov stared at the screen, confused. After a few moments, he turned to me, his neck glowing crimson under his collar. You're certain that the cameras are active? There hasn't been a mistake, Ivanov asked. I'm certain of it, sir. Okay, excellent work, communications department. We will take that under advisement. Anyone else have anything to report? Asked Director Koptev. A man from the life support department stood up and cleared his throat. Director, I've been going over the data from the life support systems, and I'm running into some inconsistencies. Koptev motioned for the man to continue. First, though the station's internal clock says 44 years have passed, it appears that the life support systems remain deactivated almost that entire length of time. In fact, they were only reactivated the moment Mir reappeared in low Earth orbit. Secondly, though the electron oxygen generator is activated and working as intended, there is something very strange about the numbers coming from the Vozduk. I'm sorry, I don't speak Russian. I probably pronounced that wrong, but the Vozduk carbon dioxide scrubbers, they basically aren't doing anything. There's no carbon dioxide in the air, only oxygen. There is either a glitch in the Vozduk data collection system or whatever's up there isn't breathing. Markov finished his sentence, glaring at Koptev, his eyes full of fire. I don't like this, sir. Stop being so superstitious, Markov, said Ivanov. You were like an old provincial peasant woman making the sign of the evil eye. Pa! Sign of the evil eye. I think that's like... That might be something bad in another language. I don't know. I think that's what it is. If I'm wrong, leave a comment and correct me. Anyways, you are like an old provincial peasant woman making the sign of the evil eye. Pa! There clearly must be a malfunction in the unit. It's the only rational explanation. Besides, a national hero is up there. He is alone and afraid and not in his right mind. It is our duty to rescue him, and it's our first priority. Oh, no, that wasn't the evil eye. I think the evil eye is this. Crap. You know what? I should have looked this up before I opened my mouth and said anything. But like I said, I'm not stopping. I'm not editing, so we'll just go. He's up there, alone and afraid, and not in his right mind. And it is our duty to rescue him. It must be our first priority. Koptev's face was blank and hard as stone. He gave each man a dead-eyed look, which silenced any further bickering. Men and women of Roscosmos, it appears we have reached an impasse. None of us has any idea what happened to Mir or how Ledovsky got aboard. Hero or not, I will not risk bringing this man back to Earth without first understanding what has happened to him. We have but one option left. We must speak to Ledovsky again, and we must ask him directly, who are the smiling ones? The mission control room was silent as a tomb. I know the message requested we not bring it up, Koptev continued, but I see no other choice. I must know what we are dealing with. A deranged man who wants to come home, or something much worse. Something much worse went without saying, but we were all thinking it. Oh, wow, I screwed that up. But I see no other choice. I must know what we are dealing with. A deranged man who wants to come home, or something else. Something much worse went without saying, but we were all thinking it. He paused for a moment and looked around the room, meeting the eyes of anyone brave enough to look up. Finally, he turned towards the communication station. Yakovlev, you've already developed a rapport with Ledovsky, so I'll ask you to continue speaking with him. I want the rest of you searching for clues to a possible explanation. You are free to chase down any leads you come across. The odd silence returned, setting over the room like a thick quilt. That means now, people, get to work. The room exploded into a beehive of activity and noise, except for Yakovlev, who slumped bloodlessly in his chair, head bowed like a condemned man, waiting for the gallows. And that's the end of chapter 3. I screwed up some things bad on that one, but the show must go on. I guess I didn't really say this in the first video, but the idea here isn't to be perfect. I'm not going to sit here and edit this. If I was doing a podcast, I'd probably do that. This is kind of more supposed to be like an author reading. You'd go to a bookstore, see your author, read his book. And since we're all under quarantine for the COVID-19 virus right now, you shouldn't be going to a bookstore anyway. So I guess maybe this is my virtual bookstore reading. But anyways, if you have any advice for me to improve anything I'm doing here, like I said, that I'm completely new. I don't know what I'm doing. Feel free to leave in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me.